Hey, welcome to SI Now. It is Thursday, May 4th, and I'm Maggie Gray. Thank you to everyone who is watching on Facebook Live. On today's show, we'll tell you what it is like to fight Muhammad Ali, and we'll take you on a trip to the top of Mount Everest. But we begin with basketball, and the debate isn't new, but the debate is changing. LeBron James admitted that he was chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan, and on Wednesday, he got one step closer to catching him. LeBron passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and is now second on the career postseason points list. That makes him our adrenaline performer. It's presented by Toyota. Let's go places. In Cleveland's Game 2 win over the Raptors, LeBron scored 39 points on just 14 shots. How's that for efficiency? And if we're talking about those career playoff points, well, it's not another ring, but it's another bullet in the chamber for those who believe that LeBron is gaining on his airness. Here's how the debate is playing out on social media. A few tweets that we liked. Nick Wright from Fox says Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a six-time champion, six-time MVP. He had the most unstoppable offensive move ever. LeBron has scored more playoff points than him. Of course, talking about the skyhook. Tommy Breer from Basketball Insiders. LeBron has more career postseason points than Kareem, more assists than Jason Kidd, more rebounds than Olajuwon, and more steals than Stockton. From Pat Morris, he's a fan. As much as I hate to admit, LeBron is just making it easier and easier for me to mention his name with MJ's when it comes to greatness. One person who believes there is no debate, radio personality Robin Lundberg, who joined me earlier this week. Watch us.
Hove got flow, though he's no big in Pac, but he's close. How am I supposed to win when they got me fighting ghosts? I can relate anything in life to a Jay-Z lyric. LeBron James expressed a similar sentiment when he told SI's Lee Jenkins he's now chasing the ghost of MJ, meaning not just Michael Jordan, the Family Feud answer for best basketball player of all time, but his airness, a folk hero. But you know LeBron is closing in because of how insecure MJ fanboys get whenever the topic is broached. 6 rings, they say. He never lost in the finals, they say. It's the only argument they use. It's the only argument I need, Sean. I could construct a stronger argument for Jordan. I just wouldn't believe it. Because LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time. No individual has ever had more impact on a team than LeBron. When he left the Cavs the first time, they were fresh off back-to-back 60-win seasons. They then went on the longest losing streak in NBA history and had the worst record in the NBA over 4 years, while the Heat went to 4 straight finals. When he came back, right back to the finals. For comparison, when Jordan left to play baseball, the Bulls won 2 fewer games. In fact, the Cavs' losing percentage fell more post-LeBron than the Bulls did the year after MJ, Pippen, Rodman, and Phil all left. Well, what about the 6 rings and never losing in the finals? As if losing before the finals is better than losing in the finals? Jordan lost 3 times in the first round. LeBron never has. And for those who bemoan his path, I would argue every team LeBron has beaten for the title is better than any team Jordan did. Not to say MJ didn't go through some greats in his career. That'd be dishonest. But I bet most people would struggle to name more than 2 or 3 players on the squads he beat in the championship round. Richard Dumas, Adam Keefe, Greg Foster, and Frank Brakowski started for the teams the Bulls beat in the finals. Meanwhile, Durant, Harden, Westbrook, Duncan, Leonard, Parker, Ginobili, the 73-win Warriors, who needed to add KD in order to take on the one-man dynasty, are amongst the litany of stars and future Hall of Famers LeBron bested in June. In Jordan's heyday, everyone wanted to be like Mike. Well, LeBron isn't like Mike. He's better. Case closed. Don't at me.
Some compelling points there, delivered only as Robin can. And to be honest, I'm also more leaning towards LeBron, but it would be remiss of me not to mention this one stat crystallized by Chris Herbert, who tweeted this: LeBron, 205 games, Jordan, 179 games, and LeBron still behind Jordan by 200 plus points. So stop it. All right, what do you think? If you're watching on Facebook Live, make sure to weigh in with your thoughts. Ernie Johnson.
When I was growing up,
Oh, there we go. Not just the host of Inside the NBA on TNT. He plays everything from Inquisitor to Peacemaker to Jokester. In Johnson's new book, Unscripted, the Emmy winner and cancer survivor talks about the relationship with his father, Ernie Sr., who was a major league pitcher and eventual broadcaster for the Atlanta Braves.
When I was growing up, it was, it was crazy because I had two older sisters, Dawn and Chris, and they would both go on to become teachers. And so around our dinner table, I mean, if you made a grammatical error, everybody jumped on you. And so English became the place I really wanted to center my studies. And so as I went through school, English was always my favorite subject. And as I grew older, it was, if I can't be a baseball player like my dad, then I'll be an English teacher and a baseball coach. That'll be the greatest combination of all time. He was there to encourage me in that endeavor. Every old home movie that we have, I've got a bat and a ball and I'm running around the front yard, and so baseball season never ended for me. I have seen old video of my dad pitching in the World Series and actually hitting in the World Series. I know he faced Bob Turley, who was one of the aces on the Yankees staff. And so here's this old DVD I'm watching, and Turley's throwing, and my dad's up there swinging, and he's taking cuts like he's into it. He was not going to be an automatic out until Turley threw him a curveball, and my dad's knees absolutely buckled like, oh, it was Jello-like. And I can recall him being over at the house one day, and he and I were just watching this old video, and we were howling. It was one of those moments that you just never forget. If you're a kid who loves sports, it was this dream childhood, and that just continued into his years as a broadcaster, and me tagging along, going to the ballpark. But for me to be leaning up against the batting cage, and Hank Aaron takes his swings and comes out and asks me how my little league team is doing, for a kid that was pretty cool. All I'm trying to be is the best example of my dad, and there were times where I don't handle situations the way I should have, and I feel like, man, Dad wouldn't have done that. I miss him like crazy. I lost him in 11, but I hear his voice every day. I truly do. That's not some kind of flowery, kind of thing for me to say. I truly do. And I hear him say, hey, once you've done your best, Ernst, the hell with it, And I remember that all the time. So, he's always with me. I wanted to honor him, and I wanted people to know that the influence he had on me was profound. He and my mom both, and I watched him go about his job and take it so seriously. And so, yeah, this is, I never want to take any credit, and I didn't, if you write a book like I did, it's like, I don't want people to come off thinking, oh, what a great guy. I just, I want him to say, it's pretty cool how he learned so much and now he's trying to pass that on to his kids. I'm nothing special. My dad was special. I'm just trying to live up to it.
All right, Sports Illustrated senior writer Ben Reiter is here. And Ben, you've got a fascinating story this week on Cubs outfielder Kyle Schwarber, who's going to forever live in Cubs lore after he kicked off the 10th inning comeback in the World Series in Game 7. And let's talk about this. This is a guy who the Cubs took a chance on, 2014 draft. Theo Epstein was enamored with Kyle Schwarber from the start. Why is that?
Well, Ryan, the reason I really wanted to do this story was before Game 1 of the World Series. Theo Epstein stood at the back of the cage at Progressive Field in Cleveland. Remember, this is when Kyle Schwarber was surprisingly coming back. He'd torn up his knee earlier in the season. Nobody thought he'd be back until spring training. They announced not only is he coming back, but Theo Epstein says Kyle Schwarber is going to do something special by the end of this World Series. 8 nights later, obviously, he led off the inning that broke the curse. There's a lot that Theo Epstein saw in Kyle Schwarber, and he saw more in him than any other team. Going into the draft in 2014, teams thought that this was a late first rounder. Theo Epstein drafted him 4th. He refused to trade him, even though he seems like a DH, and tore up his knee. And then he promised he'd do something special in the World Series, and he did. Obviously, Theo Epstein and the Cubs saw something in Kyle Schwarber that nobody else did.
Yeah, you tell the story of Theo going down to tell him, we are not trading you. Despite all the rumors that were going on at the time, it made sense. The Cubs needed a reliever. The offers were there. Theo held, and the rest is history. The question with Schwarber coming out of college was whether he could catch in the major leagues. And Schwarber basically had a job interview while at Indiana University with Theo. How did he convince Theo that he was his guy?
Well, one day when he was at Indiana, the Hoosiers happened to be in Arizona for a tournament. They needed somewhere to hit BP. Theo Epstein, out of the goodness of his heart, he said, oh, you guys can come hit here. So he could get a look at Kyle Schwarber and also Sam Travis, who was another top prospect on the team. Well, they hit there at the Cubs facility and went upstairs for a 45-minute, interview conversation with Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer. At one point, Theo said, hey, Kyle, what do you think about all these rumors people say you can't catch? Schwarber turned to him and said, Theo, I effing hate when people say things like that about me. He said he used a bad word. He was immediately mortified by this. Thought he'd blown it, thought he was going to go to one of the 29 other teams. But Theo liked the conviction that he showed. This is not something that disqualified him. In fact, this kind of swayed Theo into thinking that maybe he could catch in the big leagues. Now he's going to be a left fielder. He's going to catch. I think if he hits like he can, it doesn't really matter, although he's improving at both positions.
Theo took on Schwarber. You mentioned many thought he was going to be a late first rounder. He takes him early in the first round. What is it about Theo in your talking with him? What sense do you get that gives him this ability to weed through the noise, to weed through the criticism, weed through the scouting reports, and yet always push the right button?
Well, look, Theo is obviously probably the greatest baseball executive of his generation, one of the greatest executives of all time. And he's a very smart guy. Like, he understands stuff, he can analyze players and all that. But his secret is that he does not rely on himself. He has enough self-confidence to allow the very smart people with whom he surrounds himself do their jobs. In this case, a key man was a scout named Stan Zielinski. Guy was a scout for 40 years, in the Midwest, driving all over the region for 9.5 months a year, trying to find the next great player. And Kyle Schwarber, he watched him, he said, I think this guy reminds me of Babe Ruth. He pounded the table for Kyle Schwarber again and again, and Theo listened to him. Theo said, if Stan Zielinski says something, you better listen. That's really a secret to this whole thing. It's not just, one man making decisions at the top of the thing. He really integrates all the brain power he has in his organization, and we've obviously seen the results can be pretty good.